I want to go now to Texas. We've got Houston police are holding a press conference, and we'll listen in now.
Slinkard, Chief Bainbridge, Captain Skillern, Chief Dobbins, and Captain Null here. Ever since this incident occurred, it's been a high priority of the Houston Police Department to catch this suspect for a matter of for many reasons. It's very rare when someone's killed and you can't even figure out a motive and they're actually targeted. And most importantly, it was creating a lot of panic in the Texas Medical Center. As we all know, it's a world-renowned jewel, and so these people haven't slept. They didn't let me sleep last night either. They've been looking for this man, and this morning, I'll just get to what everybody's wondering. This is our suspect. The suspect's deceased. He committed suicide when he was confronted by two members of the Houston Police Department patrol assets here in Southwest Division. And I'm going to run you through it. We're very fortunate in this city that we work very diligently to create and build bridges of trust. And we're committed to relational policing, which really believe that the number one force multiplier for our city is the community we serve. And we serve everyone that lives, works, or visits the city of Houston. And so this is case without the public, we wouldn't be standing here today. You all know how we identified this suspect. We talked about it before, and then this morning, as we searched through the night, and we've been searching for days now for the suspect, actually most of the week since we identified him Sunday into Monday at 9:21. The Houston Communications Center, Emergency Communications Center, received a call of a individual chasing a suspicious person. At 9:25, that individual, by the way, the individual gave the wrong address, so we started responding, but we couldn't find where they're at. At 9:25, the individual calls and says that the suspect is near the Jewish Community Center, and the caller at that time at 9:25 said he believed that the suspect may be suspect Pappas, who we were looking for the murder of Dr. House Connect. At 9:30 a.m., the caller calls back because what occurred is this reporting party works for the Houston Parks Board. He was on duty near the bayou over here. We have a problem with graffiti, and he checks that area on a regular basis to make sure nobody is committing the vandalizing any walls or homes in that area. I've actually talked to the witness, and he said that he saw an individual that turned out to be Mr. Pappas, suspect Pappas, sitting there near that area where there's a lot of vandals. He turned around, jumped the curb, came to make contact with Mr. Pappas, suspect Pappas, who started walking away. As Pappas was probably about 7,500 yards from him when he actually yelled, "Hey, I'm sorry, I thought that you were a graffiti vandal." And Pappas, just according to this witness, puts his arms out like this and then starts walking again. The witness then looked and actually found a wallet that suspect Pappas either discarded intentionally or unintentionally, we don't know, left it there where he had been sitting. He looks in the wallet and realizes, finds the ID, recognized the name Pappas, thanks to the efforts of the media who have been great partners in getting out this information in social media in terms of Twitter sphere and everything else we've used as the department. When he notices it's suspect Pappas, he calls back and he says, "This is Mr. Pappas. I found his wallet and his ID." At 9:34, units finally, when we got a better location, arrived in the area. A solo officer patrol unit at 9:35 gets even a better address right over here behind us, where you all can see where the officers are way back. You'll see those police cars. One of our officers spots the suspect. The officer recognizes him, gets out of his police car, and at gunpoint starts ordering Mr. Pappas, starts giving commands. Suspect Pappas had his left hand up and had his right hand secreted where the officer could not see his hand. The suspect said something about suicide, and the officer said, "Let me see some hands," or something of that nature. The suspect has body armor on and was not complying with our officer's command. When the officer saw he wasn't complying with the commands, He actually made a tactical repositioned himself on the other side of his patrol car to put his engine block between him and the suspect. Fortunately for our officer, a backup unit arrived from the opposite direction, and as that officer started forming a T formation on the suspect, Pappas took the gun and shot himself in the head. He was pronounced at the scene deceased by a Houston Fire Department from what appears to be one single shot to the head, self-inflicted gunshot. I'm very thankful today for quite a few things. Number one, I'm thankful that we're going to end this week with a great sense of relief in the city of Houston, in the Texas Medical Center. I'm thankful that in this instance, the community came forward. The community was our absolute greatest force multiplier. And obviously our detectives, our patrol officers did not rest. Our command staff did not rest until we have this suspect in custody. And I'm very thankful that this suspect, although he committed suicide, you normally don't put on a bulletproof vest when you're thinking about suicide. When you start thinking about, based on my experience, it's just an opinion and a hunch. But I thank God that second officer got there when he got there, because the suspect was not complying with the commands of the officer, kept his hand, his strong hand with the weapon in it, secreted where the officer couldn't see it. And it wasn't until he saw that second officer. I'm convinced that had we not had that second officer arrive from a different angle, we might have had a shootout out here. And I'm just thank God that our officer was okay. I also thank God that our witness, who's really Cree, that works for the Parks Board, I really believe when he was doing this and stopped, he's trying to get him to come up. And if you know anything about this suspect, that we've talked about his skills, we've talked about the fact that he is a very good marksman, and actually had holsters secreted in his clothing that we found, and so on and so forth. It's a very dangerous person. The other thing I want to say is that we will conduct an investigation here into this shooting like we do any other shooting. The investigation will continue. Now, this morning, we've heard reports that some media outlets are putting that there was a hit list by this suspect, that we had found a hit list. Let me just address that really quickly. When our officers, our investigators, conducted the search warrant on Sunday night and the Monday morning, Tuesday and the Wednesday. Pardon me, I misspoke on that. Tuesday and the Wednesday morning, at the suspect's residence, they found a very extensive intelligence file that this suspect had put together on Dr. Hoskenak. He knew everything that you could possibly find on this man. And I'm not going to go any further into details, just to say that it was very extensive. Inside that intelligence file, we found one sheet with some of Dr. Hoskenak's information, but contained within that sheet was probably a couple dozen names of potential doctors and other employees of the Texas Medical Center. When we determined that those were potential employees of the Texas Medical Center, we actually passed that information on to the medical center, and they dealt with it to make sure that the notifications were being made and as they identified those employees. Again, this has been the culmination of a lot of great work by the men and women of the Houston Police Department, a lot of outstanding leadership by the men and women you see here behind me that have not slept, and obviously by our detectives that have not slept. And lastly, I think this case illustrates that with the cooperation and with the engagement between local law enforcement, and the communities we serve, this is what we get. We get resolution, we get it quickly, and we get it before there's another loss of life. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Chief, do we know how Pappas has been getting around? Was it on his bike, by foot?
That'll be part of our
Straight to CNN's Ed Lavandera for more. Ed, talk about the extent of this manhunt.
Well, it has been rather intense throughout, really concentrated in the city of Houston. Police, as you heard the police chief there talking about, that they had found his car inside his home, and that they suspected that Joseph Pappas left his home earlier this week on this 10-speed Schwinn bicycle, the same bicycle he suspected of having ridden to carry out the attack and the murder of Dr. Mark Hoskenak. So really the search for this suspect has really been concentrated concentrated in the Houston area simply because he was believed to have left on his bicycle, so there wasn't a sense that he could have gotten terribly far. And obviously this kind of plays out to this scene because in the neighborhood that we're at is a little over a mile away from where Joseph Pappas lived. So all of this very concentrated in the southwest area of Houston.
Ed, thanks, and we'll be right back.